Hi. So today I want to talk about navigating relationships after 40, and I'll be sharing with you 6 lessons that I've learned from the life of Jesus. There comes a season in life when something quietly but powerfully shifts within us. The desire to be liked loses its grip, and the need for approval fades. And in its place, a deeper longing emerges to live authentically, faithfully, and purposefully. In our younger years, rejection can feel personal and even painful. We work hard to fit in, to be accepted, to be understood. But maturity teaches us that peace does not come from being liked, it comes from being aligned with our values, aligned with our purpose, but most importantly, aligned with God. In my younger years, it used to bother me when I felt misunderstood and unloved. Now I've made peace with the fact that not everybody will like me, and I'm absolutely okay with that. What matters more to me now is living authentically, being true to my values, walking in my calling as a child of God, and living a life that actually makes a difference. People pleasing, I'm glad to say, has officially exited my life, and the joy, the peace, the freedom that came with that decision, absolutely priceless. I had friends in my 20s and 30s who I'm no longer friends with now. Some left my life when I became a mum. Others left my life when I got married. And still others left my life when I decided to start my own business. People will come and go in your life, and that's not failure, that's growth. Some relationships expire, and that does not mean anyone has failed. It simply means we are growing, we're evolving, we're becoming. And in this season, some people won't be able to come with you, and that's okay. One thing you must learn as you evolve into who God has called you to be is how to be comfortable with people leaving. You have to learn to be comfortable with solitude. Embrace being alone because there'll be seasons where the journey is solo, and that's not punishment, that's preparation. So here are the 6 things that I've learned from the life of Jesus about how to handle relationships. The first one is to love with boundaries. Now, Jesus loved everybody. There's no question about that. And that part is non negotiable. And we have to remember that love is not a verb. Love is not a noun, rather, sorry. But love is a verb. It's a doing word. It's an action word. Okay. Love is kindness, respect, compassion, service. Jesus did all these things, and yet he still had boundaries. When his own family became a hindrance to his purpose and his destiny, he created distance between himself and his family and aligned himself with people who shared his vision. We know that once his family attempted to interrupt his ministry, and Jesus responded with clarity rather than guilt. And this is what he said: "Who is my mother and who are my brothers? Whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and my sister and my mother." And we find this in Matthew 12:48-50. Jesus did not reject his family. He redefined closeness. He refused to allow familial ties to derail his calling. Sometimes your true family won't share your bloodline. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to love people from a distance. Some of us are stuck in toxic family dynamics out of guilt, obligation, or fear. But Jesus never allowed toxicity to derail his purpose. He removed himself, set boundaries, and kept walking. So just because we love does not mean that we have to throw away the boundaries. Having boundaries is part of loving. Okay? So the second thing that I learned from how Jesus handled relationship is the fact that Jesus knew who he was and he understood his purpose. Because Jesus was secure in his identity, other people's opinions didn't move him. He was focused on why he was on earth, and everything else was noise. So many of us are exhausted because we are living for approval, afraid to upset people, afraid to ruffle feathers, afraid to be misunderstood. But Jesus simply wasn't. The key is to know yourself, know your purpose, and remember what people think of you, how many people like you, How many people follow you or approve of you? None of that is any of your business. Know your values and keep people close to you who share those values. So the third thing that I have learned is not everybody needs to have equal access to you. Jesus had the crowds that followed him, and then he had the 72 disciples, and then he had the 12. But then amongst the 12, he had the three, Peter, James, and John. These three were the closest ones to him, so close, in fact, that he let them witness something as intimate as his transfiguration, where they saw him having a one-to-one conversation with his Father. Why didn't he bring the 12 there? It's because Jesus identified that these three were the three that he needed to bring the closest to him. Not everybody got the same level of access to him. Not everybody should get the same level of access to you. Choose wisely whom you allow into your inner circle. Some people just have no business being that close to you. Have a small group of people you know whom you can rely on when life gets difficult. But also understand this truth. There will be times when even your closest friends will fail you. And you must be prepared to stand alone if necessary. Okay? In his final hours, Jesus walked the hardest road alone. Everybody fled, including those three that were closest to him. And yet, that didn't stop him from fulfilling his purpose. He still fulfilled his purpose. So even the people that we have closest to us, there'll be times when they're not there. If you haven't understood who you are and understood what your purpose is, how are you going to get through those difficult situations when there's nobody by your side? So the fourth thing that I have learned, the fourth point that I've learned from how Jesus handled his relationship was that he was not a people pleaser, and he knew when to say no. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that to be a good person or to be a good Christian, you have to bend over backwards for everyone. And that's simply people pleasing. That all changed when I realized that Jesus himself said no to people plenty of times, even to his family members. He wasn't easily manipulated. He wasn't easily guilt-tripped. And yet he was still the most loving man to ever walk the earth. And yes, he still managed to save the world. In John 7, 8-10, we read, we find this story where his brothers were trying to, almost manipulate Jesus into doing something that he wasn't ready to do. They wanted him to go to Jerusalem with them. But this is what Jesus said to them. You go up to the feast. I am not going up to this feast, for my time has not yet fully come. After saying this, he remained in Galilee. But after his brothers had gone up to the feast, then he also went up, not publicly, but in private. In this moment, Jesus' brothers mocked him and told him to show off at the Festival of Tabernacles. They wanted him to prove himself publicly, but Jesus knew that their motives weren't right. And more importantly, he knew the timing wasn't right. He said no to their pressure and said yes to God's timing. In another example found in Mark 1, 35-39, Jesus had been healing and casting out demons in a town, and the people were looking for him. But when his disciples found him and said, everyone's looking for you, Jesus replied, let us go on to the next towns, for that is why I came out. At first glance, it might seem cold. The people still needed him, right? But Jesus knew his mission was bigger than just physical healing. It was eternal hope. He didn't come to be a full-time miracle worker for one town, but he came to proclaim the good news everywhere. He said no to staying in one place, even though people still had needs, because he was committed to his greater purpose, right? So you too can learn to say no. Jesus didn't say no because he didn't care. He said no because he was rooted in the will of his Father, not the expectations of people. So how many times do we bend over backwards, unable to say no to people because we feel it's uncaring or, we might not be popular? But Jesus shows us that it's okay to say no. And sometimes saying no is the best thing that we can do. The fifth thing that I